In this video, I'm going to go over the results of what happened after I spent over $72,000 on my Etsy ads. By the end of this video, we're obviously going to get some insight on actually what that did profit-wise, but also we're going to talk about the proper way to analyze your Etsy metrics when it comes to ads and profitability. Because what I've realized is the reason that there is pushback on this topic really comes down to one key thing. So like I mentioned, hopefully by the end of this video, there'll be more understanding when it comes to analyzing and tweaking the dials with your Etsy ads to get them to profitability. And keep in mind, guys, I have many trainings on Etsy PPC in my channel, so I really implore you to cue all of those videos next. Welcome back, guys. All right, so as you can see here, we spent $72,456, and this on an ad level generated us $233,000. Now, for a lot of Etsy sellers, right, this is the incorrect way that they analyze their Etsy stats. They come in here and they look at what that spent and what it generated me. And not that that's incorrect, it's just for me, that is not the extent of which I make higher level decisions about if ads are working for me or not. Because if you look at this ratio, it's not a really sexy ratio at all. But personally, what I look at is I look at spend compared to top line revenue. So if you take 72,000 divided by 525,000, that's about a 13.7 marketing cost percentage, which actually, in my opinion, I would really like to get that less than 10%. If you're new to e-commerce or business in general, it's pretty realistic to have about a 20% allocation go to marketing or to your marketing budget in comparison to your sale price, right? And when you're setting up your business model, you want to have a piece of a pie left over for a marketing cost percentage. So to keep it under 20% is still pretty good, but there's always room for optimization. And again, that's all that tweaking the dials, optimizing your ads, you're gonna find all that in those trainings. So really don't just take out one thing of this video and then just like scale your ads and waste a bunch of money, right? I'm not telling you to do that at all. I realize that going through this journey, that the pushback I get when I talk about ads and scaling ads is because they don't understand their own metrics in the day-to-day as is. So the idea of even allocating more of that money to something else is super uncomfortable when they already aren't getting clear ideas of what their true profit is. So that's why I made a sheet here that is kind of showcasing some numbers that I calculated from my personal profit and loss statement on this brand to give you an idea of what it properly means to understand how to see a net profit at the end of the month. But the incorrect way to be analyzing your business on a month-to-month basis is by something called a cash basis. A cash basis means that I made $100,000 that month, but I had to spend $120,000 that month on expenses, on shipping, on raw materials for my goods, maybe some employees, on all the things, right? So that doesn't mean then that you made negative $20,000, right? Technically, on a cash level, which that is considered cash-based accounting, right? That means that you are negative 20,000 for cash flow that month, but that doesn't actually resemble your profitability, right? To accurately get your profit at the end of the month, you need to correlate every single sale with something called your cost of goods sold, which is the cost associated with creating that product. The reason why people aren't getting accurate depictions of their books at the end of the month is because they're expensing or basically saying, I made 100, but I spent 120 because I had to buy a bunch of raw material that month for the Christmas rush that's coming up. Now, print on demand people, digital download people don't have this problem because it's just a matter of going and pulling a report in Printify or Printful to see how much your cost of goods sold is. Now, if you're not somebody doing POD and you're like me and you actually make physical goods in your store, right, I would implore you to start figuring out how to associate every sale with a cost. what you could do, like I said, is come up with something like an average cost of goods sold. So you can kind of assume that every sale, the average cost to create that product with that sale was blank. Then you can basically say, okay, I made 100 sales that month and the average cost associated with each of those 100 sales was X, and then you can come up with some sort of average. Now, this is not the correct way to do it. And really the only correct way you can do this is by making sure that every single variation option in your store has something called a SKU. And then in an Excel sheet similar to this, you have one column that says SKU, and then you have one column that says cost. And every unique SKU has its own unique cost. And then you can go and basically calculate your cost of goods sold. But if you don't want to do that, just at least come up with an average, right? An average will get you closer to then understanding at least your marketing. So in this sheet here, I kind of broke up my month average. So my average sale prices, which you calculate your average sale price by total amount of money collected from all sales divided by the amount of orders that you got, right? That is your average sale price for each month. Then we have our average cost of goods sold for each month. So the cost associated with all of those sales for each month, right? And then I have my average fees, which this is basically 9.5% of my average sale price, right? The 3% merchant fee, and then the 6.5% seller fee. And then my average shipping cost, and then that gives me my profit before marketing. So that means I'm trailing pretty much a 49% profit margin percentage before marketing. So if you do 49% less 14, right, that means that my profit margin percentage is 35% after ads. But let's just say that I launched my store for the first time, right? My marketing cost percentage might actually be a lot more in the beginning. It might be 20, maybe even 30%, because it's more expensive to run ads when you have no reviews, no organic indexing, and you're just overall a new store with not a lot of social proof, right? So the point here is that it's important that you understand this makeup, right? And that you have a visual, and that's why I like to refer to everything in a pie chart, because you can visually see how much of the piece of the pie is left over that can go to your marketing costs. Now, key thing here, contingent on how hard it is for you to make the product, right? You might have a more exceptional or non-exceptional expectation for what you even want to spend or what percentage you even want to allocate to your product line. So for me, we have a really lengthy process for making our goods, right? So if I don't clear at least a 20% profit margin after marketing at the end of the month, then the business model itself is pretty flawed, because there is so much work that goes into our products that if we're not clearing 20%, it's just not worth it, right? So it's really important for us that our marketing cost percentage stays as low as possible. Now, if you're someone doing print on demand, or if you sell very low ticket goods, your marketing cost percentage is even more important, because you already don't have a lot of room to play with your profit margin percentage or your sale price, because you have low ticket items. So when it comes to print on demand, if you have a really well set up print on demand store, can you have all your price points right, and you don't offer free shipping, at your very best, you might be clearing anywhere from 32 to 35% a net profit margin percentage before marketing. That means that if your marketing cost percentage goes above anywhere from 10, 12, 15%, your profit margins from your print on demand store might drop below 20%. However, because the nature of a print on demand store is that you don't have to touch the item, that's still a pretty good return on your money, in my opinion. But because the nature of that niche is very low margin anyway before ads, it's going to be even more vital for you to learn how to tweak the dials and really try to get your marketing cost percentage less than 10%. Personally, I have seen a lot of 7-figure print-on-demand stores, and every single one of them has their Etsy ad budget maxed out. And every single one of them will tell you that it is very vital that they have their marketing cost percentage less than 10%. They really try to get it to 8%. And if you can maintain an 8% marketing cost percentage on a POD model that's doing 7 figures, that means that you're clearing almost pretty much over 20% still at an 8% cost percent profit margin percentage. That's a really great model. And there is a lot of pushback when it comes to print on demand people because of the nature of it being a low margin space, right? And people are like, I don't want to spend money on ads and I don't need ads, but I make so much more money organically. So let's just give an example. I got a comment on one of my videos where someone was basically saying, I don't want to turn on my ads. By the way, guys, you don't need to turn on ads. It's just, in my opinion, if the goal for you is to be in this game for the long play, it really is your best interest to learn how to grow a scalable business model with a maxed out ad budget. It's kind of like if there is a race and you're going up against another player with a similar product, similar photography, mock-up, similar price point, similar design, and you guys are both starting the race. And you both start getting some organic sales, but this guy over here decides that they're gonna start really trying to run with ads, right? This guy is gonna start getting more exposure, more clicks, more sales, more reviews, more social proof, and this guy is gonna maintain rank way faster than this guy over here. Now, that's fine when it's just two people going against each other and this guy's okay with the money that he's making. But as years go by, now you're not just competing against one guy that's maxing out their ad budget that's winning the race, but now you're competing against 1,000 other people. Now, this guy who's been maintaining organic, maybe decent sales is gonna find that his sales are gonna drop because everyone else is gonna be willing to outbid him and they're gonna start gaining traction on him faster. But this guy at the top, because he's still maintaining his ads, he's still proportionally scaling. And this is true not just for Etsy, right? We've seen this on Amazon. If you got on Amazon and you were one of 10 people selling phone cases, the day that you started getting hundreds, thousands of competitors coming in, not running ads was just not an option. You have to do it in order to be competitive. And I'm not saying that Etsy is that today, but if your goal is the long play, right, you might as well set yourself up for the best case scenario today instead of worrying about it tomorrow, right? And then having to restructure your business model and being let down later on. So back to the comment on YouTube. She said, I've made it over 127,000 in revenue and I'm glad I'm not paying thousands of dollars in ads and I get to keep more of what I've worked for. That is valid. But let's just do some math, okay? So at $120,000 in revenue in 1 year, right? Let's just pretend that she was a print-on-demand model. Now, she actually told me that she doesn't do print-on-demand, but POD would be like the worst case scenario example because the margins historically are pretty bad. So let's just use POD as an example. So if you take 127,000 times 35% profit margin before marketing, right? That's $44,000 without ad revenue. Now, let's pretend that this girl got her ads optimized to about 12% with them maxed out to $1,000 a day. And she really tweaked the dials and she has a really optimized ads account and it's only spending a 12% ad cost percentage at the end of the month. Now, keep in mind, if you're a new POD store, it's gonna be pretty hard to get 12% marketing cost percentage. It might take months. It might take a full year of breaking even to get it down to 12%. I don't know the case. It depends on how good your products are. It's only contingent on how competitive your listings are. And that's, again, watch my training. So let's pretend that she got her ads maxed out and she got it to 12%. At the very minimum, with an ad budget and a really good POD store at $1,000 a day, you're looking at her at minimum at least 3xing her numbers. Like, that's like worst case scenario. Normally, if you have a really good store and you turn on ads like that, you're pretty much gonna like 5x, but let's just make up and say it's like worst case scenario. So 127,000 times 3x. That's 381 in top line, right? But remember we said she was doing really good. She has her price point set up for POD. She's clearing a 35% margin. But let's subtract out that 12% that's now going to her ad cost percentage. So that's 35 minus 12. That leaves you with a 23% net profit percentage. Or let's just make it even worse, right? So let's take 127,000 times 3. And let's say that in this case scenario, she's actually only clearing a 32% net before marketing, right? And let's say that her marketing cost percentage is 12%, right? Ideally, she has it lower than 10. That's where you really want to be clearing at least a 20% net. So let's just say 32% before marketing cost percentage. She got her ads down to 12% marketing cost percentage per month. That leaves you with a 20% net. So if you take 381 times 0.2, that's $76,000 in actual profit. Before we said she was doing around $44,000. That's an additional $32,000 with your ads turned on. So it feels good to say, oh, I'm keeping more money. But again, that's just a short-sighted approach. So it feels good to not have to go through the pain of tweaking the dials. And I'm pretty crazy. Like, I'm somebody that's actually like willing to break even longer than most. I'm even willing to lose money longer than most people for the long game, right? But not everyone wants to play that game. But at least you have to be educated and know what your options are. And if you want to play the safe game, that's okay, but just know what the bigger game is. And so when things don't work out or the competition starts arising and you do see the downturn, at least you know why, and you're not sitting in like this limbo wondering, I don't know what happened. You knew what happened. And like I mentioned, guys, ads out the gates aren't meant to be profitable. Like, ads out the gates are, just expect that they're not gonna be profitable and they might not make you money, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to go crazy and just deplete your bank account, right? There's ways to gain momentum with ads in a slower, less expensive way. But there's a lot of really important key things that happens when you start spending money and investing in your own business. So guys, overall, I hope you got some serious value out of this video. Make sure you're commenting your questions down below, and please watch the trainings, watch the trainings, watch the trainings. Every single business is different. Every single business has its own needs, wants, fears, and goals, right? Variables that affect certain stores, right? Price point, number of listings, searchability, right? There's so many variables that can affect one shop over another. That's why it's important to watch the training so you understand the full picture and you can pull out the right information that's particular to your business. All right, guys, my name is Hannah Gardner, and if you have stayed until the end, thank you so much for watching, and I will see y'all in the next video. Bye, guys.